Are you a Christian addict? Perhaps you should be. An addict could be described as someone who will pursue and work to obtain one thing at the expense of everything else. Addicts are people who happily will give up what they have in order to get a little bit more of what they're addicted to. Hi, I'm Christopher, and this channel asks questions and provides recommendations to help Christians apply the Bible to our lives and know God more deeply. Christians should be addicts. Now hear me out. Christians should have the qualities of addicts. We should be relentless in the pursuit of the object of our obsession. Jesus himself talks about this and explains it in a couple parables found in Matthew 13. Matthew 13, verse 44 to 46. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. I think Jesus had the same idea in mind when in Luke 14, verse 26, he says, "If anyone comes to me and does not detest his own father and mother, and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple." So of course, neither of these passages actually uses the word addict, but both of these passages highlight the traits I'm talking about. In order to obtain the kingdom of heaven, these people give up everything, money and family. Not only that, these people are happy. They want to give these things up in order to obtain the object of their desire. Matthew 13 specifically says, "Then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field." So what is it that these people are pursuing like addicts? Matthew 13 specifically says the kingdom of heaven. Now, the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of God are terms referenced extensively in the New Testament. I would love to hear your definition in the comments below, but simply put, the kingdom of heaven can be thought of as the appropriate authority or reign of God. The kingdom of God is when God is appropriately given the honor and worship he deserves. That can and should be in the corporate sense. Society and the world should acknowledge the authority and reign of God. But the kingdom of heaven can and should also be in the personal sense. God is my authority. God is the king and ruler of my life. In Luke 17, verse 21, Jesus says, "The kingdom of God is within you." So let's be like addicts, willing to give up everything in order to obtain the object of our desire. Let's be willing to forsake money, possessions, yes, even family, in order to have the kingdom of God within us and in the world. So here are a few things I'm working on so I can be addicted to the pursuit of the kingdom of God. Being willing to give up things I love for the kingdom of heaven is tough. Let's cut right to the chase. Would I be willing to give up my family, my wife, or my kids for the kingdom of heaven? I don't know. Sometimes I think the first step, though, is wanting to be willing to give those things up. Today, I can at least say I want to be willing to give those things up for the kingdom of heaven. Right now in my life, thankfully, I'm not being called to give up my money or my family for the kingdom of heaven. But I do find it helpful sometimes to mentally put myself in a position in which I have to give up those things in order to follow God. How do I respond mentally? How do I think about that mentally? Can sometimes help me evaluate whether I'm willing to give up those things for the kingdom of God. Now for something a little more concrete. I need to continually be evaluating my finances. I think it's important to always look at how much money I'm giving the church and ask myself, is it right? Should I be giving more? If I think about giving another $100 to the church, how does it make me feel? Does it make me anxious? Or Am I a joyful giver? And perhaps most of all, it helps me to remember we have a perfect example. Jesus gave up his place in heaven. He came to earth and lived a life of poverty. He gave up his life to bring the kingdom of God on earth. When I think about that, when I think about what he sacrificed so that the kingdom of heaven could be within me, it helps put all this in perspective, and the things of earth grow strangely dim. I hope this video has shown why we need to be Christian addicts and provided a couple ways to think about how you might pursue the kingdom of heaven. Let me know what you think in the comments below.